pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Carries. Number one is the resolution establishing the 2024 county equalization rate for town city. For this, line up there below. That's that word. Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number two is a resolution authorizing execution of confidentiality agreement of Constellation Energy Generation LLC at 9 Mile Point Nuclear Station LLC regarding next negotiations. Still going on for
I'll second.
first, second, Rich.
As you know, they're a publicly traded company and they have a lot of sensitive proprietary information they'd like to share in the context of the tax negotiations. So this is similar to what we've done previously on any of the nuclear plants.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Grateful. Resolution number three is resolution authorizing the intermunicipal agreements between the cities of Oswego, both weights and members contract. City of Oswego is the amount of $13,200. City of Polk is $11,000. Okay, this is the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
It's not real clear in some of this that this is, these amounts are annual. In some spots it is, and it's spelled out, but the resolution it's vague. Say this. I want to make it clear that this is a 3-year contract and these amounts are payable each year.
We can amend that if you want to do that.
It's clear in the agreement.
First page.
First page of the agreement states that.
Yeah.
Resolution. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Grateful. $500,000 in ARPA. This is for a planning system. Need to authentic manufacturing type of settings.
This is already budgeted in your 2024 budget. And advice of the county attorney, since City Boss is an external agency, recommended we do a resolution that moves $500,000 from the internal fund to the external. Through a contract, and that meets the federal obligation definition. So you're saying intern, correct? We're transferring 500 to the intern. Okay.
Doing that, Dave, does this give us a little more internal? If some of the funds that have been allocated aren't used by, does this give us some room to have a bit more internal?
Not internal, the internal, so the Treasury allowed you to claim up to $10 million for lost revenue if your award was in excess of 10 million. Use it pretty much for anything that you normally would by regular government services. You still have to report all those expenditures. So this is reducing that 10 million to now the 500,000 for the internal account. So just transferring it over to external so we can afford a contract under the other set of Treasury goals.
Which is, but does that, if some of the funds aren't expensed from the external that we've appropriated, have $500,000
Oh, you're talking about putting more money back into the internal. No, there definitely not 500,000 left in there. We're tracking everybody pretty closely. We've got a couple who we've said, look at, so we just finished the third quarter reports for this year last week, and we said to probably half a dozen people, based on what you've told us at the end of the third quarter, we really need to know from you in the next 30 days whether or not you're going to be able to spend all that money, because you may take some of it back if you can't. Because we have to obligate all that by the end of this year. And one of the ways that we could do that, if we have extra money, is to move some back into internal. That leaves in a very short window as well, because he has to allocate all of that money also.
Dave, what do we have left in the external?
Right now, there's about 100,000. Some of that could have a place, but nothing has been decided, because people who have asked said, well, can you do this, or can we do that? Can we get more? I never got approved. I never had a chance to apply. And so for probably almost a year now, our response to all of those questions is that the legislature has stopped accepting applications and likely will not make any other distributions, but that's totally up to you guys. The other option for whatever was left is just transfer that to the internal and use it for our other own personal expenses. A lot of people who got ARPA money spend all of it internally because there's qualifying activities that are in that external group that basically could be internal activities as well. So we'll know in the next week or two a much closer number, but it's around 100,000. The other thing that impacts that is the way that the budget process is set up. Had the budget me for a whole year next year, which everything goes as planned. I'll probably be out here in the first quarter of next year. We've got a few things which I'll talk about in my budget activity, and so once I get a better handle on that, that'll have a little bit more money in that pot as well.
The alternate budget for strategic initiatives in that scenario. We just gotta get the figure to HR to calculate. We'll be able to, if you guys want to make that change, you'll be able to. Thanks. other discussion?
You said that you have numerous people, or several people that haven't used their ARPA funds, that you're looking for, sent them letters. Could you email me that? I'm not going to ask you for it right now. Could you send that to me, please?
Yeah, it's all public information about who was awarded.
Right. Yeah, I know it's on the website, but you know, if you would send me who hasn't used their funds and you've sent them a letter.
So people have until the end of 26 to spend their money,
Right, I know that.
and we only have to the end of 24 to obligate the money. So I'm not suggesting that just because they haven't spent it at a pace that we thought was reasonable so far, that we're really going to take money back. For example, there's one. So some entities have to use what they call a fiscal agent because they can't internally report manage money themselves, just the way that they're set up. And one of those in particular, they've done activities that were meant to be funded by ARPA, but their fiscal agent hasn't done the internal paperwork to show it as being expended, right? We know it's been spent. They don't have the budget report to show it's been spent. So we're just like trying to say, you need to light fire under your fiscal agent because we need to see those papers. Otherwise, we might have to do it. So our message to them was not, we're unhappy with the pace that you're doing your work. It's, you really need to kick these guys in the butt and get us paperwork or else. And that giving them that document lets them say to their people, hey, look, I got this. You're going to make me lose money if you don't get going, right?
Yeah, I understand that, you know, but I'm just asking for that, you know, we just sent the letters.
Yeah, there's just one small change, the state, wants part of the policy that if any public employee gets foiled, that we contact them, because we had to add that part to our board policy. Yeah, we had to approve it, yeah.
I make a motion to move this to full. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all. Library. Two of your budget. It's project line OCLC, about first quarter of the way down, 53,350. Which is what they requested.
Same as that.
Mhm. Thank you. Next up, we have the Sportsman's Federation. You make the same as I have. Yep. Thank you. That works. Second.
favor? Aye. What opposed? Next up, we have the Board of Elections.
And page 35. Probably one of the larger changes here is under rental building and properties. I recommend the budget for the first quarter of the year. Streets. Done.
All right, that's all.
There it is. And I had some discussions with Operation Oswego County about your this.
Second. First and second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have, county attorney.
Page 32.
Thank you.
Anything you wanted to say about that?
Now, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. We're still trying to fill that other attorney position.
I'm wondering if someone could speak to why it's so much higher than 2023.
There's been changes to salaries.
Salaries.
I just have a question across the top. Got salaries and wages, the amounts that are underneath that are the same, but from 1 year it goes from 597,000, 557,000. Then it goes to 656,000. Numbers underneath are all the same. What's the difference there?
When a department uses the salary line for an adjustment in their budget, it doesn't reflect on the salary. It's usually reflective of a vacancy. So I can't reduce the salary number, but I can reduce the salary line. So what you'll see in other departments is the numbers don't change, because if we're not reducing that salary per person, we're reducing the salary line because there's vacancies. We're reducing that.
That explains itself.
Correct.
Previous this year, we had taken
Yeah, basically,
That way on all.
basically, a person is not paid out of their salary line, they're paid out of the total salary and wages, 51,000.
And all raises right now, lost the subject. I won't ask it for every one of them, but the raises that are on the draft have all been out of the compensation study.
In the compensation study, or if the department heads have asked for any reclasses, those are.
I'm just looking,
I can get you.
raises are kind of all over the place. Okay, that's it, thank you.
There's also times salary.
And we had taken funds out of the vacant attorney line to cover some of the expenses for the gun litigation and the generic, or OTB gun litigation and tax litigation.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Next up.
Insurance, page 26. We're in the process of renewing all lines. We have some applications ready to be submitted. Some have not been returned. We've asked NYMER for an estimate as to rate increase. We're fully capitalized in NYMER. It's a captive program for municipalities. Sometimes we get money back. Sometimes rates go up. Rise and fall with the tides with the other municipalities, about 600 reciprocal. I have not received a response on that. Hopefully I'll have it by Thursday. So it's a placeholder until we get our premiums. We can't renew generally more than 30 days prior to expiration.
I make a motion to accept. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, we have the county clerk.
Page 32.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, 27. 27.
Just basically one change, I think, of the whole thing that I really want to draw your attention to is I'm moving one employee from motor vehicle to records management. It's a vacant position right now in the motor vehicle. I am starting 2 positions on top of that for motor vehicle. What we're going to do is hopefully help move the records management project that we're doing, record center along. I think they're quicker. I definitely need some more help with that back scanning. 40 years doing this, so that person would be a great help. Basically, keeping my budget.
Second. Any other discussion? Anybody opposed? Next up is the county legislature.
Page 1. One of the bigger changes here is you'll notice that the OCO Plus operations money is not in that. It has been moved to. That's not in there. Yeah, but we'll do that later. It's a $900,000 difference. How much was that for? 900.
Right.
You raise the names for giving the legislature a raise.
There's a resolution passed several years ago directing the budget officer to raise the legislature 3% in the budget.
That's no longer the case. The legislature is set by local law. So if you want to do increased pay, you have to introduce a local law to increase pay for the electeds. As you'll recall, the legislature adopted a local law fixing their salaries. So it's in the tentative budget, but in order for it to be effective, you know, prepare a local law if that's something you wish to do.
Yeah,
Would that law have to be
see it
adopted?
as always.
It has to be adopted prior to the budget,
Right, so we need to.
or it can be adopted after, but then it may trigger. It should be in the budget. The cleanest way to do it would be to have it approved prior to the budget.
So what you're saying is we need a local law now. Schedule a public hearing the
Legislators
same day as the budget hearing?
Yes, they cannot be, legislators cannot be paid any more than authorized by local law, which you adopted. Well, if if the local law has an increase in it, well, then that's fine. Take a look at the law. But I don't know if it does, as I said here.
Current local law?
I would have to take a look and see whether it's an increase. But if there isn't, it requires amending the local law.
So that'd be something you would need this committee to do a motion to direct you to develop a local law.
We could do it through finance and you do it through finance personnel as well. But you can't pay against the local law, so that's, we can check that and see.
I was going to check on it, and if we have to create a local law and schedule a public hearing, county attorney suggested we do that through F&P since we don't have the credits.
Let's in the work.
Currently in the
I'll go check.
I have a question. On the, the requested line, we're at 457 overall for county legislators. And then on the graph, we're at 428, and it's actually showing a higher pay. So what's the difference there? Why is that?
During the request, our department audited 10% to every single salary line until you guys could come to applications. So that number is to the actual salary line, not the salaries. So just so that the requested budgets wouldn't dramatically lower than what actually came out.
Okay. So basically, if you look at the adopted 224 and 415, 16, or 618, the increase is the difference between that.
Yes.
And the actual 2025 draft is the 3% versus the 10%.
You got more?
No, that was it.
Anybody else? I just, even though it may be in the local law, you just add, because it's in the local law, does that require us to give out the basis? Or can we say we don't want to give out the basis?
I think you can say we don't want them. We all have to agree.
I believe
I know that ain't gonna happen.
this is really a question for the county attorney. I believe that if it is in the local law, there is a prohibition that you can't lower an elected official's salary during their term of office. So the question would be that if you forego it, are you lowering the elected salary that is otherwise set?
I'm not saying to lower it, I'm just saying not to.
Well, you may be lowering it by, if it's in the local law saying it's going to go up 3%, you say, no, that is low. But here it is.
I read, but didn't find out.
Local law 2021 is 3 of 2021 is amended in 23 and I've got my working draft here, is legislators at 15,625, and then for 25, they're at 15,625 as well. So this would have to be amended if you want to provide an increased pay for legislators. Chairs at 34,372, and minority leader at 18,748.
That's the draft, the actual,
I've got,
you have the actual says.
yeah, this is my, what I submitted for the Legislature Act. It's just easier for me to look up that way. So I can, if the committee wants, I could prepare a local law that would amend this. Okay.
The local law currently keeps the,
I understand this.
chairman's asked the attorney to draft the local law. What he's called for is a vote, I think, on the budget at this.
So as I understand it, I'm drafting a local law to conform with the tentative budget.
The draft budget, yeah.
Draft budget, yes.
So basically, we voted on the local law. What year was that, Rich? Originally.
There's a 21 local law and it was amended in 23, I
Okay,
believe.
so in 2023, we all voted, some of you all voted in favor of the local law that stated that in 2025, you're not going to give yourselves raises. You're going to stay at that, whatever the rate was. Now you want to change it, put in another local law that says change the amount that your raise is going to be. So you can change what you already said that you do. Okay, that's all I had to say, and all I had a question. Later.
23 is for your term. So the term law is of the legislature.
I didn't pull the 21 law. The 21 law, if memory serves me, was a multi-year law that addressed not only the legislature, but the clerk, the sheriff, the treasurer. And then there were amendments in 23, from what I could tell. And I've got to look this up. But we can prepare a local law, what the committee would like to conform with the draft budget numbers. Because the treasurer can't pay any more than authorized by local law.
So if we agree to this amendment, we can then still talk about this and whether we pass the amendment. For that, we can do it.
Yeah, it's a two-step process.
This is just to
You
get
gotta
the
vote on the
budget.
public
This is
hearing.
just to present the budget as
You're
a
right.
state. Like,
Yes. Yeah, there's a resolution setting the public hearing, should be at your November meeting, and then the actual public hearing and vote. And we'll be able to set. So, yeah.
And that would follow with the local, we would submit that with the draft local law, obviously. So you want to have a special meeting, or you want to do that prior to the meeting next week, or you want to have it go through finance, that's either or.
Might have it ready for finance. Any other discussion?
So Betsy, are you comfortable with nothing being appropriated for any periodic
For,
those lines on page 3?
Well,
It's nothing for periodicals, production.
I think you're into,
yeah, you're in a,
say,
that's
No,
not,
it's in strategic.
that's strategic, 10, 11 is strategic.
we're
Oh,
on
I'm
page one,
sorry.
we're on page one.
One, yeah,
I stand corrected. So you're comfortable?
I'm comfortable with it. I'm good, you're good.
It's okay with Betsy, it's okay with me.
We haven't voted on budget as it stands. Clerk. We did that. Well, no, we did that at the end. But we do need to do that for the.
Yeah.
I'll make. No, and I'll vote that we leave it as the way it is written. Aye.
Just make sure it's page 5.
Betsy, what falls under personal services? Is that the,
Personnel services, that's, those are salary.
well, that's the total one?
Yeah, yeah.
My bad. I didn't see it all.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, separate weights and measures.
Six.
Second. Second. Thank you. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
That stuff right up. Page 2.
Right down the bottom.
Did you say you were gonna revise the budget to reflect a possible?
Yeah.
This
Right, yeah, it's basically the only line that's affected with the salary. But I did have a question for you. You reduced the travel reimbursement line, 2,500 to 15. Is that already in anticipation of your departure, or should I reduce that further if there's only one?
So the other travel, will cover, Kyle has expenses for, trips to Albany or Binghamton. He's also working, on a broadband, he'll be a broadband lead when I leave. So a lot of their, statewide sessions have been in Binghamton so far. So travel primarily will be for him to have to go do those things.
So we shouldn't reduce that 1,500.
Yeah, you might be able to take a little bit out of there, but he still will be, just don't, mileage should be okay. Kyle's gonna be doing a lot of site visits over the next 2 years. So the mileage should stay there, probably could take some out of other travel.
500.
Yeah, but the retirement and Social Security should be reflective of me leaving in the first quarter. I just wasn't able to adjust the salary line.
Down to the 46,
Yeah,
So the fringe is already adjusted.
yeah, those two are. Also, other fees and services, the 484, those are, appropriations that have already been authorized for various, people who were awarded funds, but they haven't yet drawn those down. So that shows in there. That number could change between now and the December meeting if we get a request for somebody to draw down some more of their grant.
Chart calculate, because the first quarter may end in the middle of the pay period, so each year's got to calculate. I had a chance to talk to Dave about this. It's fine, so I can get that. Had the discussions.
So you don't foresee Kyle needing any periodic quotes? Using the architect.
No, so not relative to, the ARPA funds, but there's advertising things that he needs next year on the broadband project, to get that put together. Advertising would come out of that grant award, not out of this office budget. So, while some of these numbers are a little bit fluid, we do have to make an authorization, or we'll have to have a memorandum of understanding for this office at next month's meeting. That will include 25 and 26, because we have to let the Treasury know what in first quarter 27. We have to give them an estimate. We gave them an estimate in July for what we thought that period was going to be for balance of 24, all of 25, all of 26, and the first quarter of 27. Then we have a chance to revise it at the end of the year report that we'll file in January. So, the good thing about this, not being locked in at this point is that when we make that estimate, that's what they expect us to spend on admin and legal over the next 2.5-year period. However, and this goes back to your interest, Frank, if we take funds that have been authorized for an activity and we find in 25 or 26 that for some reason those funds aren't going to be expended for that activity, we can then use those for some other ARPA-funded activity. So we could enhance something internally or externally with money that we capture. Or let's say, for example, the salary line, if we budgeted for the end of March, or the first week of March, those dollars can be reallocated in 25 for another activity that we've already been funding with our money, internal or external. So they do give us a little bit of flexibility.
And are you allowed to increase your administrative expenses on that?
I don't think that we can increase the estimate that we give them, but they change the rules once a month. So better off being a little bit on the high side and then figuring out if there's extra, push it someplace else. Thanks. And again, these are kind of off budget. This is an off budget account that money comes from, so it doesn't have as much impact as
That's what my question was going to be. Money still comes out of there.
yes. Yeah.
Money, no, local share. Should be effective. I make a motion to move schedule forward. So, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Property is page 20.
Wait,
That came from the Land Bank Board of Directors, and that's an increase they are giving her, and they reimburse us for it. So there's no cost. Complete. It's happening.
yeah.
We'll see on top of page 23, that land bank reimbursement. You see that went up by.
And we bill that back to the land bank. They pay that quarter.
would like, yeah, to speak to the land bank and maybe the treasurer as to how the new affect that. Changes.
Well, my understanding of it is that even if the properties are still given to the land bank, they're required to calculate that surplus to be paid in regardless. So I'm not sure how that's going to affect their operation. They still seem to be moving ahead with business as usual over there, and giving a substantial raise to their director. So it seems to be. They don't seem to be too affected by it, but I mean, Rich, am I correct in that that's how they would be required to pay into a surplus even if we give them a
Termination, if surplus exists, or if it's a blighted property and there's another way to take under the RPTL that if there is no surplus, certain distressed properties, but other properties that they typically received could need an appraisal. They could bid at auction. That's a topic of much discussion right now. When the safest thing for the county at this point is to put properties in the auction, because the auction price is determinative of value, and we don't have to argue about surplus. When you get appraisals, you can argue about surplus.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be meeting with Kim and probably Shane as far as trying to figure out the process. We discuss it probably every other week. The thing is, the city has, from my understanding, has given them a lot of properties recently. So they're gonna be busy with those. And, our process may not suit the land bank the way we want to handle it. So we got to really figure it out and have an appropriate discussion. No matter what, if there's a surplus, that's really the big question. If how does the land bank handle the surplus versus, it's easy for us now. We got the process pretty well down. The other thing, coming up kind of along the same line is we're determining whether we want to foreclose for the city of Oswego anymore, because they're very selective on who they like to probably sell it to or have options of buyers. We don't. It goes to the auction, sold, we get a surplus, we follow a process. So there's a lot of questions churning on the backside right now, and we appreciate the question. But
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're all going to be addressed.
well, as soon as now that we have our process in place, now it just comes down to if the land bank wants to join in our process or they want to develop do something else.
Chairman's salary. Land bank board of directors.
They emailed me in July with what the new salary was going to be. Or they emailed me in July with what the salary was going to be for the land bank director. Yeah.
We don't pay.
It's on there so that you can get a pension. That's what the initiative was. They would reimburse us for everything. That puts her on state. State tax paid, okay?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
It's page 46. So we're full staff. Or you're full back. You full staff.
We are, I believe we're at full staff for everything except we have 2 full-time attorney positions that are still open. However, right now, the numbers, depending on what happens going forward, we may only need to fill up one of those spots. We don't have the year-end numbers, and the office was just started last year. We don't have historical numbers to go off. But, based on the numbers, we're going to go a little bit over what indigent legal services, ILS, wants numbers to be at, but not enough that it's going to be a problem.
So you don't have to cease operations like we were worried about 2 or 3 months ago.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, since the numbers of assistance. Pardon? On the draft for 83,384, because it's real for us, we don't have those papers. Those are what's created, great.
It's a great grant last month.
So it's 2 slots. You're right.
I'm assuming they're not okay. The 2 to 1 last night's resolution.
No, they're not totally honest.
I just added.
Yeah, but still, it's all somebody.
Correct, but if you look, they did submit to me a letter from the board that showed that the grant that they received in 24, they will also receive again in 25, so that grant was also added. And also the dollar amounts that they're required to spend on certain things were also added.
Well, that's a grant through DCJS, Division of Criminal Justice Services. Actually, that's half the grant. The other half went to the assigned counsel program. Rachel can certainly talk to that. But in reviewing this and looking, because we were hesitant to tie it to positions being a grant. However, the state is looking into, DCJS is looking into how to make this a permanent grant. And every county in the state right now is getting this grant on some amount. So they are looking to continue this ad infinitum.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Page 40. PD received confirmation that he was getting that grant in 25. Did you also receive a letter saying that?
I have not received any confirmation, so I did not include that grant. It was conservative. Typically, DCJS gives assigned counsel $13,000 a year, which is what I included in my budget. This year, they gave Oswego County 2 $322,000 grants. The PD and assigned counsel, so we each received $322,000. We're not expecting. If you all recall, last month I prepared a resolution to do that to help cover the when I last spoke with DCJS, when I point blank asked them, we receiving this in 2025. you said we do not have confirmation of that yet, so I did not.
As we move towards budget adoption in December, can you keep checking?
Sure.
If the confirmation that we're getting that federal or the levy bill.
Sure.
Thank you.
I also recently applied for a grant through ILS. I asked for $750,000. We do not know if we will receive that or not. They could give us $750,000. They could choose to go lower. They could choose to not award us to go down anything. But we should know hopefully by the end of December, which is certain.
Supporting attorney, 0.
Yes.
When we appointed Rachel was the supporting attorney.
Okay.
So when she took over the director, we made the director full-time. And
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We didn't really do department report, but I did want to, recognize, Corey and her team for all the help they've done the last month. They've had a lot of mapping work, for various projects we're working on, and I just reach out to them, and it seems like they drop whatever they're doing to respond, so I just want to let you know that, we couldn't get by without real property support. So,
Happy to help.
Motion for executive session, Mr. Chairman, pending litigation, Western Regional OTB, CNY Raceway, insulin generic pricing, and Velasco steam station. Also credit financial history, particular person or corporation, as well as proposed litigation.
Go into executive. If you vote to go into executive, Dave here.
We'll do that.